Welcome to the Anxiety Connection. If you've ever struggled with anxiety and are ready to finally get some answers, you've come to the right place. Hi, my name is Wendy Leeds, and I've suffered with anxiety my entire life. Thankfully, I'm also a psychotherapist, and over the years, I've learned a lot about anxiety, where it comes from, and how to manage it. That's what this podcast is all about. So, let's grab a cup of tea and talk about it. Welcome. I'm Wendy from the Anxiety Connection, and I am so glad you're here with us. Today we're going to look at what the heck anxiety really is, and I'm going to talk about my personal definition. Not something you'd read in a psychology book, just really what I think about it. But before we do that, I want to introduce my Anxiety Connection crew here with me today. As always is my husband, Tim.
Hello, I'm here, standing by to support Wendy.
And in charge of everything but the talking.
Correct.
And our dog, Miles Standish, who snores. And again, if you know how to cure dog snoring, please be in touch, wendyleeds.com. And if you hear snoring, it's our dog. Let me ask you this question I asked at the end of our last podcast. What would your life look like if you didn't have anxiety? What if we could magically dissolve that anxiety or send it packing to Bermuda? What would you do? Where would you go? Who would you be in your life? Would you dance on Broadway, start a nonprofit? Would you like to meet a new friend, a life partner? Maybe you'd like to see the sunrise on a mountaintop or beside the ocean. What would you like your life to be? And I want you to dream big, because this is a big, big world full of lots of possibilities and opportunities. If you're still breathing, there's life to be lived and adventures ahead. You just have to reach beyond your fears. And that's what we're here about at the Anxiety Connection. Taming the fears and reaching out into the life you really want. Today, I want to begin at the beginning by sharing my definition of anxiety. But before I do that, let me ask you, what is anxiety in your life? How does it show up? And I'm going to put Tim on the spot and ask him about how anxiety shows up in his life.
Well, I am generally not an anxious person.
It's wonderful to live with, I must say.
But I do kind of live Wendy's anxiety.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah. Well.
But I watch Wendy as she goes through her various stages of working her podcast and writing her book and getting her book to the point of where it can be published. This
spring or summer, we hope.
The title is Calm and Sense, coming this spring or summer. But I see what she goes through, and I sometimes live her anxiety, because I know that she has a lot of unanswered or issues that she deals with in the process of getting her book published. Mm-hmm. And so it's a step-by-step process, but we try to work through it together.
That's right.
And I try to keep her calm as she
with good sense,
as she struggles with the anxious elements of getting her book published.
And life in general.
And
that's thank you for that. Such a good reminder that if you're anxious, it affects everybody around you. And if you're not anxious and you live with an anxious person, you know how anxiety can affect you and the community around you, which is really why it's such an important discussion to be having. Anyway, and I just want to share this story. I know what anxiety is, and I was just thinking the other day, when I was in 4th grade, my parents rented a rowboat, and we rowed down the Concord River, which, if you live in Massachusetts, you know it is not a raging rapid. It is a very calm river. And all I remember is imagining that I was going to die and writing my obituary. 4th grader dies in tragic drowning accident. Maybe you've had thoughts like this. It started for me very young. So I've been thinking about anxiety my entire life. And now from an older, wiser perspective, I want to share what I think about anxiety and how I define it. And I want to start by talking about what anxiety is not. I want to talk a little bit about anxiety and depression. First of all, they have some things in common. They have some biology and they have some psychological features in common, and they share some symptoms. Sadly, they can also show up together. They can be comorbid, we say. But they are different in a really important way. And you're not going to read this in a psychology book. This is sort of what I've come to through my own experience. For me, depression is sadness, grief about things in the present and in the past, mourning the past, feeling sadness about things that have happened. And a depressed person can think about the future and maybe feel hopeless or sad. But generally, depression is about this moment and what's happened. Anxiety, on the other hand, are those thoughts about what might happen. Gee, what terrible thing might happen this afternoon when I go to the dentist, or in 2040, if I retire and I don't take the IRA or whatever. It is thoughts about the future, the scary what ifs. I can't handle it. I'm not good enough. When I think about anxiety, I think about fears of things that might happen that you can't control. So for me, anxiety is all about this moment, but really about the future. The second thing I want to talk about is anxiety versus worry. And sometimes we talk about them as the same thing, but in my mind, they're very different. Worry for me is mostly in your mind. You worry in your mind. It's a normal response to life. Everybody worries. It is usually specific. It is April 14th, and you have not started your taxes. Your car is making that noise again. Your dad is having a hard time getting around. And even as I'm talking, you may feel your blood pressure going up. That's worry, and it's a normal response to life's troubles. Worry is specific. And worry can help us. Worry is the thing that makes sure you have a fire extinguisher in your kitchen. It makes sure you take your car to the garage when it makes that banging noise. It actually helps us focus and solve problems. Worry, again, is in your head. Anxiety, on the other hand, is not normal and shows up in your body. Ongoing anxiety makes your life miserable. It can keep you awake nights, and it takes the joy out of your days. Believe me, I know. Anxiety causes, a racing heart, panic, headaches, aches, pains, IBS. There's a whole list of things that anxiety can cause. Anxiety is also more general. Something awful is going to happen. You worry about making the mortgage payment this month. You are anxious about the fact you don't make enough money at your job. You don't know how to ask for a raise. You're afraid to move to a new job because a bird in the hand. Anxiety is all those worried thoughts in a jumble. For me, the most significant difference is worry is something you can take control of. Anxiety is that feeling that, gee, something horrible is going to happen. And some of the best definitions I've heard of anxiety is it's that itchy feeling that something awful is going to happen, even when things are going good. Anxiety tells your body to be afraid. And my favorite is this quote that I just really love. Anxiety is like a toddler. It never stops talking. It tells you you're wrong about everything. And it wakes you up at 3 a.m. in the morning. That's anxiety. One of the best ways I've ever heard to explain the difference between worry and anxiety is a Chinese proverb that I would love to share with you. The birds of worry and care fly over your head. This you cannot change. But that they build nests in your hair, This you can prevent. And to me, that's the difference. The birds of worry fly over your head, but it's anxiety, those birds that nest in your hair. And let me say, if you don't have hair, I get it. I am a 3-time cancer survivor. I know what it's like to be without hair. So feel free to picture yourself with a hat, or just let that bird of anxiety nest on your beautiful bald head, whatever works for you. So what do you think, Tim? Is that a good image?
I think that's a very helpful image for many folks out there.
Yeah, it really works for me. And what I'd like to do is just take a moment and do a visualization around the birds of anxiety and the birds of worry. So find a moment, take a breath, close your eyes, just take another deep breath. Now picture with me those birds of worry flying overhead. And it can be any kind of a bird. Make it a lovely bird. And watch that bird fly away into the sky. Okay. Now, imagine the bird of anxiety landing on your head and making itself comfortable, nesting on your head, digging into your hair, building a condo, furnishing the condo, laying eggs, nesting. That's my anxiety. Maybe it's yours. And that anxiety looks like, I'm not good enough. I'll never be able to do that. Everyone's smarter, taller, prettier, nicer. Those birds are the birds that are limiting your life. Now, take a deep breath and shake your head and encourage those birds to fly free. You can rub your hand through your hair and imagine those birds taking wing and flying off into the distance. Let them go. Let them go free and let yourself go free. Now they have your address and they may come back. If they do, let them go again. Tell them, we are closing shop. This space is now only for the positive new thoughts I'm going to think about my life ahead. There's no room for you on my head, in my hair, or in my life. You just need to keep flying on. The nice thing about that visualization is you can do it anytime, night or day. And if you feel a bird starting to nest, send it on its way. Now, let me end by asking you to do something different this week. I'm going to ask you to think back to all the times in your life you've overcome a fear or a challenge, no matter how small. I'm talking about the time you got in the elevator, drove over a bridge, asked for a raise, entered the contest, took the course, went back to school. And let me tell you, I went back to school as an adult. I was one of the oldest people in the school. It took a lot of courage. You can do it too. I'm talking about the time you spoke up in a relationship, you took the trip, you got on the airplane. I am talking about the moment you took a risk and faced down your fear. Good for you. Good for you. Maybe you faced down more than one fear. Excellent. Now you have even more information to work with. And if you can't remember a time you faced down your fear, why not just try imagining what it might feel like to do something brave, to walk through your fear to that wonderful life waiting on the other side? Why am I asking you to do this? Because here's the magic. If you faced a fear once, you can do it again. If you can even imagine facing that fear, you can do it in real time. The trick is to figure out what works best for you. What has worked in the past? Bring it back. I want you to think about using that skill, that talent, that courage to overcome a fear you're facing today. Did you find a technique that worked for you? A strength, a talent? Do you remember what you said to yourself? I want you to remember that moment. And now I want you to think about the moment afterwards. How did you feel having faced that fear? Successful? Powerful? Proud? I bet you felt amazing. And that's what I want you to think about this week, that feeling of courage and power and success, the times you got it right, because I know you've been spending a lot of time on all the times you got it wrong. I know, because me too. I want you to focus on the time you said yes to your life and your courage and no to your fear. I want you to live your life out loud. So, if you enjoyed this time together, please subscribe to my podcast. If you're interested in reading more about anxiety and worry, please go to my website, wendyleeds.com. I have a wonderful blog there called Worry and Anxiety. And until we're together again, I wish you peace, love, and joy.